What is going on YouTube? My name is James, back at it again with another stock review. A couple of stock reviews in this one. The market here is kind of heating up a little bit as we go through last week's action, moving on to this week. I got a couple of names here, a couple of hidden gems that I feel like a lot of people aren't really paying attention to, or ones that people haven't really seen yet. So worth getting the kind of insider, if you will, and just going over them technically so you can see what I'm seeing. So first and foremost, the one I got here is UA, otherwise known as Under Armour. So this one's, on a weekly time frame, daily time frame specifically, it doesn't have a crazy amount of volume usually. Has about, on a given day, about 2.5-3 million in trading volume. The past 2 days, however, with earnings coming out, it has had a little bit more volume, a little more volatility going on with it. So definitely what I'm keeping an eye on. This weekly setup here, you can see my blue line is my 20 EMA, my yellow line is my 60 EMA. Weekly volume obviously ramping up with earnings. RSI is just now starting to kind of get going there. The other thing to look at here, if we draw out our Fibonacci retracement, so from the very low, the swing low to the swing high, just about, give or take a little bit, you can see that we pulled back almost perfectly into that kind of golden zone. So we call this the golden zone because this is about the area that a lot of the buyers try to get in at. It's the most opportunistic entry, the most low risk entry you can get. You're talking 100% move right here. You have a 50 to 61% retracement. That's pretty healthy. That's a nice pullback. So we did get that pullback there with some continuation volume here. I'm looking at this one for a potential break towards that high of the 899. Now this is on the weekly, so keep in mind this might not happen necessarily this week. Could happen in a couple weeks from now. But ultimately, I do like that $9 range. I also, as we approach that area, if we can break that with some power, we do have a nice little kind of fair volume gap, or fair value gap, if you will, from basically that $9 break up to about the 10-10.50 range. So we've got a little bit of room on this one to move. Now, if you're playing, stocks, just buying shares and stuff, you could easily, I would say, get, a 10 to 20% move out of this in the next week or two, in my opinion, if this continuation happens. So the first level we're going to watch for to see that is this candle right here, where we have this kind of pullback, but you can see we have a clear wick and rejection. So the top of that, which looks to be, let's see here, the high of that day was 8.06. So you get 8.06. If we can break that, I do think we have a nice shot at going for those highs of $8.55 to $9. And if we can get that move over $9 here, this might not be a bad one to watch moving into the summertime. Obviously in the summertime, we're closing in on summertime. Under Armour is going to get more sales. People are going to be preparing themselves for outdoor activities. Sales should go up. Revenue, I would expect to also kind of increase ever so slightly. But these guys just had earnings, so you don't have to worry about any earnings anytime soon. This is just strictly technicals now at this point. So I do like this one. I like the engulfing pattern the day after earnings on Friday. I would like to see continuation. Again, that 8.06 level is really that spot that I want to see break here in the next couple of days this trading week. That's why I'm letting you guys know about it here today. So Under Armour, another good one to keep an eye out on. I will say the contracts for this one, I would be looking at those March 15th. Usually I would say go out of the money, which you definitely still can do an out the money call at $10, since that is general target range over time. I would say the better bet right now would be to go one in the money, the 7.5 calls, which have a little over 1,000 in open interest. The delta is 64 compared to the theta of 0.005. So it is very likely that you will be in very little drawdown on this one. You'd have a lot more, you see a lot more green in this trade than you would red, in my opinion. So I like UA. Again, that's those March 15th, 7.5 calls. As far as a good entry, it would be nice to see this kind of consolidate and pull back here a little bit. So on the 4 hour, if we can get maybe a touch of the 4 hour 20 EMA, that would probably be the most ideal entry and low risk entry setup, using, that daily. I would say right now the daily 260 20 EMA, these are all kind of your support at the moment. If it dips underneath of it, I would say, you know, cut this one. We'll look to see what happens when it approaches this zone once more. So never get married to a position, guys. We give the upside and the downside for each one. And again, I think if we dip underneath the 200, the 60, the 20 EMA on the daily time frame, I think, and ultimately it looks like that level of about 7.4. Ultimately, if we lose that, then this thing could turn around and go back down towards that $7 support. So just something worth noting. But I do like the setup, at least right now, the way it's looking and what opportunity it can present here. I think that's a good one to keep an eye on and keep on your watch list. Another one real quick I want to go over here is Fiverr. If you guys aren't familiar with what Fiverr is, the business, basically an app that allows you to hire, you know, people to do really whatever. There's a ton of options on there. I actually love the app. I've used it many times. But back to the stock here, as far as the technical analysis on the stock end of it, obviously we do have this high wick right here on the weekly from way back at about 30.57. So 30.6 over to the left here. Again, you can see multiple rejection points, once right here, as well as once right here. You know, rejected in here, rejected right in here. You get the point. Another rejection here. We've had 5 different rejections on this already. I anticipate that when we do break this, it's going to be a pretty massive breakout to the upside. So we already have room from 29.20s where we're at right now up to, I would say, the 60 EMA here, relatively short term in like the next, you know, 1 week to 3 weeks. If I had to guess based on the momentum here. On the daily time frame, we're already starting to push that 200 EMA on the daily. It's a big deal. This is kind of starting to look like a potential, you know, change in the trend. Now the big thing here to watch, and this is what I was viewing as soon as I saw the chart pop up. So we have this clear, you know, bottom right here, and a sharper lower low. And then we have a slightly higher low right now at just about the same spot. To me, this is an inverse head and shoulders pattern, which is a very bullish pattern. If this is the big catch, if it can break the neckline. Now the neckline on this one, I would say at the moment, it appears to be that 30.6 level that we talked about right there. I would say if we can break that 30.6, I wouldn't see why this one can't really start going, moving up towards those mid 30s to even 40s in the coming, you know, weeks to a month. So what I'm proposing on this one with Fiverr is, you know, looking at this one on the daily, we want to focus on these levels. If that 30.6 breaks, you know, you've almost got a guaranteed straight shot up to 34, you know, within a couple of days / week or so. So on the options chain, if we're looking at this one, you know, the March 15th ones are relatively inexpensive. I'm not sure why I can't get this to go down at all, but oh, it's only showing 6. That's why. Show 50. All right, doesn't do anything. Anyways, I know that when I was looking on my phone, I believe that the 40 calls for was it June? It wasn't June, maybe it was April. Anyways, out the money calls aren't too expensive on this one. You're talking, you know, on even the April ones, giving yourself 2 months for this move to kind of happen. You know, if you buy those 35 calls, which in my opinion will go in the money, you're looking at a 32 delta to a 0.02 theta right now. So, you know, it's very nice. If the trend continues here, you should see very little drawdown. Even, you know, going either a month later with the Junes for better theta decay, $40 calls I think would be a good option here even. So I do believe this one's got some room to move. I would like to see overall for this trend to continue, the 200 EMA on the daily get held. I don't want to see them lose that. I think it'll line up with the weekly 20 EMA, but the daily 200 EMA is kind of my safeguard here. If we lose that, I would say that this is a good one to cut, reevaluate later. I think the move is there no matter what. You know, buyers are definitely setting this up to have a nice massive breakout to the upside, and I'm here for it. I love these inverse head and shoulders patterns. You know, typical play out for these can tend to be, you know, one of these numbers. So up, maybe not even that high. That's kind of high. But generally, up right back down to the neckline area and then continuation upward. So that's essentially the pattern or the general trajectory of this I'm looking to go with, and this is obviously pushing it into, September time. So I think June contracts, anticipating a move up into April/May would be the most ideal. Again, I think that right now I wouldn't see us really getting much more than possibly up to like 36, 37 at most. So again, these are a little bit drawn out here. I would say it's more like one of these numbers. So like that. So you got the breakout of the neckline very clear, pull back, or sorry, hit resistance right over here. That's where you'll generally see that, I guess, resistance zone. You break out of that area, and then we'll either consolidate within this range for a little bit, or we immediately go back up to retest and likely break out. So I really like Fiverr here moving forward. I don't know if they have earnings here coming up, but they are one I'm looking at. Same thing with Hog, a perfect push into this one. Same concept I'm looking at with Hog here, Harley Davidson. A clear as day inverse head and shoulders pattern. I mean, you really can't miss this. These patterns start to get engraved, and you can almost just instantly, you see them and etc. But 37.55, I'd say arguably even 37.70 looks to be our current neckline on this inverse head and shoulders for Harley Davidson. Another, again, very low liquidity stock for the most part. On a weekly basis, this thing usually brings in 4 million in volume. So the options spreads are going to be very wonky. So definitely be using limit buys, limit sells on this only. But I do like the bounce. I like that, again, this perfect example here of just how these Fibonacci's can play out. 38% retracement zone. I preach it all the time. It honestly is like a cheat code. Right around this 38% retracement after you have a long push up, once you see the trend flipping, this is on the daily time frame, so momentarily we did flip bearish because we went under the 20 EMA, the 200 EMA, the 60 very briefly. But anyways, we broke the trend that was riding that 20 EMA. So you naturally want to wait for the perfect buy zone. I'm telling you, after a run up like this, a 38% retracement is so good. Obviously, you'd have the golden zone as well. So, worst case scenario, the next best spot is 50% to 61%. But ultimately on this one, they did get the bounce off the 38% retracement and are pushing up further. And I think that this will be either the spot where it breaks, or we see some light consolidation back to about 35 before we get that move to break out of 37.70. So I really like Harley Davidson moving forward here. I think the options chain for this one, I was actually looking at May 17th. I was looking at May 17th and these $40 1.6 calls. I have a feeling that this one could end up going in the money. And the reason I believe that is once we break this neckline, we have this fair value gap, if you will, right here. So if we go out here on the weekly time frame, you see how we just have this week where liquidity was just getting let go. Like people were just selling. It was a complete sell-off, with volume. I'm not sure if there was an earnings call, but anyways, a lot of loose liquidity there. If we start breaking over, into this area from about $40, you got a massive gap from $40 to $45. So those $40 calls, you could theoretically, we're on the weekly here. If we're looking out, I would say that this gap should generally start to get filled fairly well, by that May point. So if you bought yourself some, even going to August, looking at August calls or September. Is there September? Doesn't look like just September. July's could even be an option, to do those $40 calls. But I really think those May 17th ones have a nice little bit of open interest at 654, the delta 36, and then the theta is only 0.01 right now. So spread isn't too bad. Again, it's going to be a little bit meh because, again, the ask or the bid is 1.6 to 1.75, so you got to get fill somewhere in the middle. So you got to use limit buys and limit sells. But I think that the opportunity is there for this one as well. So whether you're playing shares or options, shares, I think this is a healthy, again, 10 to 20%, maybe even 25, depending on how much of a move this gets. So I see this as a nice buying opportunity to try and get this little reversal. You can see before this stock has done an inverse head and shoulders pattern prior. Get the shoulder, head, shoulder, and then you have a clear neckline. It was right here. You can see the price action broke above that neckline and then actually settled above it. Again, using that Fibonacci, I could show you guys these all day. The Fibonacci, look at that. The 100% move right there, the pullback, the 38% did not work this time, but there's that golden zone yet again, getting tested, and then buyers pushing off of it to create that all-time high there. So just a couple of ones there I wanted to show you guys. Harley Davidson, Fiverr, and Under Armour, I think they're all great lookers here heading into the spring. And just a couple of days / weeks moving forward. So if you guys did enjoy the video, please do leave a like, comment down below, and of course if you are not subscribed to the channel, please leave a subscription. It helps me just to want to continue to make these for you guys. I've got a lot of experience in the stock market. I'd like to say I'd love to just keep sharing it with you guys, and keep giving you guys some helpful tips to hopefully give you guys an extra $1 in your pocket. So nonetheless, guys, I will see you in the next video. Have a good rest of your night. Peace.